brothers and sisters, do you know that if every Christian in America tithed, I know a lot of you all tithe, but not all Christians do. Can you believe that? A lot of people don't, in fact. But if every Christian in America tithed, we could feed the whole world 6 times over. There'd be a lot of baskets left over. If we could let go and give it to God and let God bless it. And so we look at the needs of the world around us. We look at our own resources. And we say to ourselves, well, if someone comes to me in need, I'm going to have to send them away because I don't have enough to take care of myself. And here's what Jesus says to that sort of thinking. He says to us what he said to the disciples. I don't care how little you think you have. You don't need to send this person or that problem away. You bring what you have to me, and I will bless it. Let go of what you're holding on to for dear life, and let me bless it and use it to feed others. I read a while ago about a fellow who was a musician in a church. He found out that this was true. Ironically enough, he was a musician in the church who, at the time that he had this experience, he had been asked to preach. I don't know whether he preached a lot or only a little bit, but he'd been asked to preach, and that Sunday he was going to be preaching about this very miracle. But on Saturday night, he was working at his other job. He was a pianist and singer in a nightclub. And as the night was winding down, a young woman who was friendly with him came to him. She said, Dean, I've had 2 abortions, and now I've just had a miscarriage. Does God still love me? And Dean wanted to head for the corner. He wanted to hide. He didn't know what to say. He thought to himself, where's my pastor when I need him? But he knew he had to say something, and so he swallowed his self-doubts, and he said, oh, well, of course God loves you. A half hour passed, and she approached him again. She said, Dean, would you pray for me or with me? Now? He thought. Now with all these people around here in this nightclub, in this situation? Come on, lady, give me a break. I'm not good at this stuff. But again, he swallowed his questions. And they went together to a quiet corner, and Dean said a quiet, quick prayer with her. And there in that moment, God used his 5 loaves and 2 fish that Dean was willing to give a snippet of conversation, a brief prayer to feed a person who was spiritually hungry and desperate to have an answer about whether there was a future for her, about whether God still loved her. And all the while that this was happening, Dean was thinking to himself, I am not adequate for this, Lord. Bring the real food. Bring in the pastors. What do I have to offer? What I have to offer is not enough. And just as Jesus did in that deserted place long ago, God took Dean's gifts and used them to feed a hungry woman that night. And miracles happened. Now, in a few moments, we're going to gather at the Lord's table. And we're going to share, well, what on the surface might seem to be a pretty meager meal, right? Remember the story of a young boy. His family had invited some friends of theirs to go to church, and when they got to the service, he noticed that up on the altar were the communion elements, and he realized they were going to have communion. And so he said to his family's friends, are you going to eat with us? And they said, sure, yes, we will. And he said, well, I need to warn you, you're not going to get much. And that must have been what it seemed like to the crowd gathered here as they watched these 5 loaves and 2 fish get broken up into even smaller pieces to feed that crowd all those years ago. And in a sense, it's with that expectation that many come to the Lord's table today, a little thimble of juice, a little cube of bread. But the reality is, we know from this scripture, is something different altogether. And once again, we will be strangely and wonderfully fed with basketfuls left over, reminding us all over again that if we take what we have, if we offer it up to God, God will bless it. And miracles can and will happen.